Hi, Rochelle and David. Thank you so much for joining us today. Rochelle, I'm going to hand over to you first.
Hello everyone, it's lovely to have you all join David Heyman and myself today. Before we start the Q&A with David, I want to provide an overview of the London Screen Academy. So the London Screen Academy, is also known as LSA, is a free-to-attend state-funded sixth-form academy for 16-year-olds interested in film, TV, animation and VFX. Students at LSA learn about these industries through the art of storytelling. Our shared vision at LSA is to create stories that change the world. To do this, we shine and reflect on our backgrounds and experience to create new perspectives that are ingrained in our community and also the world in which we live in. The school has been set up by the makers of the James Bond series, Baby Driver, Bridget Jones's Diary, Top Boy, and of course, David himself. As you know, David is a celebrated producer who's brought us the likes of Harry Potter films, Paddington, Gravity, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and many, many more. We train young people from all backgrounds in behind the camera skills through classroom learning and practical lessons. Our students benefit from unprecedented access in the industry, and this takes the shape of many forms. For example, we have mentorships, work experience, set visits, masterclasses, and screenings. Everything we do at LSA is designed to develop well-rounded young people with set of skills that can take them to the industry, to university, or beyond. As mentioned before, David is a founder of LSA, but first and foremost, he's a very successful film producer. So hello, David. To kick it off.
Really good to be here.
That's nice. So to kick it off, we would love to know, what does a film producer do?
Well, I think different producers do different things. I think if you look at the credits on any given film, there are a multitude of producer credits. Executive producer, producer, associate producer, co-producer, co-executive producer. So those credits are given out for various things that people do. I do a variety of things. I find material to make into films. That's one of the things I do. So I will read books, I'll read screenplays, articles, comic books. I'll even look at old, remaking old films and use those as the foundation. I'll then try and secure the rights to those, get permission from the rights holders to make them. I've had a lot of luck and success with books, the adaptation of books. So that's a big part of my business. I then try and put the team together. So that's finding the writer, the director, and then supporting those people, particularly the director, because film in particular is a director's business. I think television is more a writer's business, but film is a director's business. And so in film, I support both the writer, but in particular the director, and in television, the writer, in realizing their vision. And that means helping them put together the right team in front of and behind the camera. It means questioning them, challenging them, but always supporting them. Any conversation should not be about ego, though, of course, in the film business, there are a lot of people with significant egos, but it's managing those egos but supporting really brilliant, creative people in realizing their visions and dreams. Then I'm involved in organizing the shoot, the filming, and then in post-production, looking at every cut, being involved in the visual effects, and then making sure it is marketed and distributed in the best way possible so that it reaches as wide an audience as possible. That's my role. Of recent, I've become a producer of a lot of writer-directors, auteurs, people who write their own screenplays and direct them, people like Paul King, who did the Paddington films, Alfonso Cuaron, who did the third Harry Potter and did Gravity, Noah Baumbach, who I've just made a film called Marriage Story, and we're making something else right now. Been talking to other, I'm working Derek Cianfrance, a lot of writer-directors. That's a dream for a producer like me, because really, as much of an influence as I have as a producer, really it's the director. If you have a bad director, you have a bad film. You might have a great director make a film that's not exceptional, That does happen, but the greatest opportunity you have is with a great director. So that's what I see my role as, which is supporting and enabling great directors and writer-directors to realize their vision. So that's, there are those producers, and it's a very valuable position, who are sometimes get executive producer credit, sometimes get producer credit, sometimes get co-producer credit, who manage the budget. That is a pivotal role, because you need to maximize the money you have. No matter how big the budget, you never have enough. You always want more. Your dream, the vision, always aspires to more. But so that position is very very valuable. And there are many. I mean, it's a very one of the beauties, one of the things I love most about film and television is that it's a collaborative medium, and it's one that really it's about people working together. It's not about an individual. The runner, the person at the bottom of the chain, the person who comes in and makes the tea and coffee, that person can mess things up, just as the producer can. Every step along the way, everybody is integral to making it a success. So a big part of what I do is building the team and then enabling that team to work, and supporting that team and encouraging communication so that team can work successfully together. And it's such fun. I feel like one of the luckiest people in the world to do what I do. I love it.
That's brilliant to hear, David. Thank you so much for giving an overview of a film producer and what you do. But it would be great to know, what does a typical day look like for you?
Well, I get up very early. I mean, it's different when I'm in production and not in production. So at the moment, I'm not in production. I'm in post-production on one film and in pre-production on 2 others. So that means I can get up a little bit later, get my son up, prepare him breakfast, and get him to school. And then I might look at a cut of a film. So that's a film that you see is made up of many different parts, many different shots taken from different times, different people, in different ways. And those pieces are put together to make a film. So I will see an early version of the final product and give my thoughts. And so that's something I may do. I will read a script. I'll meet with writers and directors about their ideas. I'll discuss with my team if they've read anything interesting. I might meet with an executive at the film company or television company. It's a very varied day. The beauty, you say, what is a typical day? One of the things I love about my job is that there's nothing typical about it, that every day is different. And that was the case when I was a runner, when I was starting off, and that's the case today as a producer. I'll do some stuff to do with the school. I'm involved in other things besides that. But my main focus is the school and the films and television shows I'm working on. So it's all about making things happen. So I will do what I need to do to make those things happen.
Perfect, that's great. And it's exciting to know, not every day is the same. It can change. So my next question for you is, why did you want to work in the film industry?
Well, funnily enough, I got into the film industry because of my mum and dad, both of whom, my father was involved in finance and my mum was a creative producer. That actually is one of the real reasons why I am involved with LSA, is because so many of the people who were involved in the film industry, I mean, it's changing, but traditionally have been middle class, white people, or people who have family in the business or have nepotism or relationships. I'm a beneficiary of that, but I think that I think the time has come for that to end. The time came for that to end a while ago, and so it's one of the central reasons why I'm involved in LSA. Why did I want to get involved? I saw the ups and downs. I mean, I don't want to pretend that it's always a high. There are lows, but I saw the variety, the excitement, the passion that my parents had for making films. It was it was tangible. It was infectious. I mean, I felt the same thing when I went to sets. I saw the way people worked together. I saw them communicating, and I saw what they created. I love movies. I love television, and I see that, when they're good, they affect you in such a profound way. They can scare you, they can make you laugh, they can move you. And one of the things that's central for me when taking on a project is, why does this need to be made? And the best films for me, the best TV shows, have a reason to be made. They're about something. And in being about something, they leave a mark on their viewer and on their audience. I remember those films I watched when I was a child, and they've stayed with me today. They influence the way that I look at the world. And to be a small part of that process felt incredibly exciting to me. That being said, I don't want to pretend that I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I didn't. I thought it was an interesting world. I saw the passion that my parents had. I felt it, and I loved stories. I love telling stories. I like to read. I like to watch films. I like to watch television. I like to speak to people and hear what they have to say, because everybody's got a story to tell. And that excited me then, and it still excites me today. But I don't want to pretend that back, many, many, many years ago, that I said, I want to be a producer, this is what it's going to be. I'm still figuring that out. I'm still learning. I'm still figuring out to be, if producing is what I want to do. Obviously, it's what I want to do. But what else do I want to do? So I'm always searching. I'm always learning. I'm always investigating. But that began back when I was in my teens, when through my parents, I was exposed to great cinema, to the possibilities that film has.
Brilliant. Thank you, David. I can see your enthusiasm. But great to know, at the moment you're a producer, but what was your first role when working in the film industry, and how did you work your way up?
So, as I say, I got my first job because of my dad, really. I worked as a runner, making tea and coffee, and delivering paper from the production office to set, the call sheets. Call sheets are those sheets which are given out every day, which show what the plan is for the next day, what needs to be brought, how many vehicles, who's going to be on set, what time people have to be there, etc., etc. And I used to print those out and take them to set and then distribute them to everybody on the floor being the place where where filming is a colloquial term for where the filming takes place. And I'd make tea for the director, and I'd make tea for anybody, actually, everybody. There was no, and I asked people what they needed. I put myself in a position where I could be used. And so that's how I got my first job. But after that, I got my jobs because of working hard and establishing the relationships that I did. I mean, so that was my job on the floor. Then the next big opportunity I had was through people somebody I met at university. And one of the things I love about LSA is its access to community. It's access to a community at the school, because everybody there, not everybody may go into film or television or visual effects or whatever. They may not. A lot will go and do other things, but a substantial number will. That's one. And two, because of who the founders are, me, Tim Bevan, Eric Fellner of Working Title, and Barbara Broccoli and Michael Wilson of Eon, who produced the Bond films, we have such unique access in industry, both to bring people to the school to educate and to mentor, but also to secure access for the students to opportunities within the industry. That hitherto was not possible. The film industry was inaccessible for the reason I said, nepotism, it's a closed shop. It's no longer the case. And that's what the founders, that's what me and my partners are so excited. One of the things that we're so excited about. So we can get you the foot in the door, as it were. But once the foot is in the door, really it's up to me, when I started off, and up to our graduates to make of the opportunities what they will. Because if you're good, you will thrive. There are so many opportunities within the industry at the moment. It is an incredibly exciting time. There's, you've seen Netflix and Amazon and Apple and Warner's and Sky and Universal. Everybody's got their own streaming service as well as the film, and everybody needs content. And the UK, because of the commonality of language with America, we speak English, because of our good, solid crew base, because of our tax break, which gives the people making films a percentage of the money that they invest back, we are a great place to film. And there is so much activity here right now. And we do not have the crew. We're struggling with the studios, the film spaces, the stages, which are, new ones are being built as we speak to accommodate all this production. It's like it's a golden era, I think, in terms of the opportunities that are out there. And so we're trying to, with the school, help build a crew base, build the future of the industry, because there's a shortage of work of people to work in it, and it's such a great place and industry to work in, and we want to expand the makeup and diversify the makeup of the industry. But ultimately, what you will get at LSA is great training. You will learn a variety of disciplines. You will learn from practitioners, people who actually do it, not just teachers. Nothing against teachers. I mean, they are vital, but to our future, to your future. But teachers who actually have worked in industry. That is, and there'll be lecturers, and there'll be mentors, and there'll be people coming in to give special talks, all of whom have had experience. And there'll be people of various levels, people who are runners who are starting off, and people who are senior and have been in the industry for many, many years. I think it's a unique offering. But again, we can provide that ultimately, and we'll provide you with a skill base so that when one enters the industry, one does it with a skill set that is way beyond what most people have at the very beginning of their career. And that is incredibly exciting. But ultimately, the proof is in the pudding, as it were. Is that the phrase? Not sure whether it is. But anyway, ultimately, you've got to do the work. You've got to work hard and show people your desire and your ambition to do well, and your commitment, because it's that has enabled me to go from being a runner to being the producer I am today.
That's wonderful, David. Thank you so much. You've given such useful advice there. But my next question would be, why did you set up Heyday Films? What was your motivation around setting up your own production company?
Well, Heyday Films it sounds much grander than it is, really. Heyday Films is me and a few people who work with me and for me, trying to find material and developing those stories into films and supporting the talent. It's really, Heyday Films sounds like it's 100 people. It's actually 10, 12 people. Significant. Why I did it was because I needed to formalize an arrangement. I managed to get Warner Brothers to pay for my office, and in exchange for a first look at what I came up with, and that formalized that. And also, but really, Heyday Films is when people think of Heyday Films, they think of David Heyman. I also did it because I want to train people. Somebody once asked me, what do you want your legacy to be? And I don't really think in those terms. I live more for the moment, but absolutely, I also think for the future. And my future, what I leave behind will be the films and the work that I do, but also the people who work with, who I've trained and built up. And Heyday Films allowed me to create a structure in which that could take place.
Perfect. And one of the films that you worked on, as you know, was the Harry Potter films or Harry Potter series. So what made you want to develop the Harry Potter series, and were there any challenges you had to face?
Oh my goodness, that's a big question. So, it's easy to sit here now and say, I knew Harry Potter was going to be a success. I didn't. When I read Harry Potter, it was an unpublished manuscript. As I said, I have put a great premium and a lot of effort into finding books. And when I started off Heyday Films in London in 96, 97, we made books a foundation of the company. And at the time, there was me and 2 other people working at the company. And there was a development person and there was an assistant. And the development person read an article in literary trade publication called the Bookseller magazine about this book that sounded interesting, and she got the book in, and in my office there are 3 shelves: priority, medium priority, and low priority. And this book came and sat firmly on the bottom shelf. And my secretary at the time, Nisha, she was the one who took the things home from the bottom of the bottom shelf. And on Monday morning, we'd come in and discuss all that we had read. And Nisha said, I asked her, so has either you read anything good? And Nisha said, well, I read this book. I said, well, what was it called? And she said, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. I said, that's a terrible title. What's it about? And she said, it's about a young boy who goes to wizard school. And I thought, oh, that's intriguing. And so I took it home and I read it in one sitting. I found myself at sort of 3 or 4 in the morning finishing it, and exhilarated, didn't sleep much that night. Sent it to Warner Brothers, who had paid for my office in exchange for that first look, as I told you. And then it took them a few weeks to read it, or someone there to read it. They read it. And then, I mean, again, it was, nobody had a clue. It was something that I liked. Why did I like it? I liked it because who wouldn't want to go to a school like Hogwarts? 1. 2, we've all had teachers who we like and teachers who we don't like. We've all had friends who we're close to, and we all, in some way, feel like outsiders. No matter how in we may be, no matter how many friends we may have, there are times we feel alone and outside. I can assure you I do today. I suspect most of the people here in some way feel that too. So I thought it was very relatable. Harry, Ron, Hermione, Neville, Seamus, Dean, they are outsiders who find in each other a community. And it's the power of loyalty and friendship and of that community, and fighting for what is right. You are what you do, not what you're. So, it touched me. And I love the imagination, and Joe Rolling's writing was so vivid. I thought it was wonderful. So that was the reason why I did it. But I thought if I was lucky, what I say is, like, if I was lucky, it might be my chitty chitty bang bang. I had no idea that it would become what it became or has become, and that I'll be sitting in a position to sit here talking to you, having made 8 films, well, 11, including the Fantastic Beast films, in the magical, in the wizarding world.
And according to Rotten Tomatoes, Paddington 2 is the greatest film of all time. So congratulations. What drew you to this production initially? And did you ever imagine Paddington 2 would be so well received?
Well, I'm really proud of Paddington 2, and I do think that Paul King, the writer-director, is a very special talent. But I think to cite it as the greatest film of all time, the only one with 100%, might be a bit of an exaggeration. But we're in a time of categorization where everybody wants to put labels on things. So it's a nice label to have. I'll take it, but we all know it's a bit of a joke, really. But I think the film is much loved, and I think the film works. Now, what drew me to Paddington? Again, I think it's a theme that runs through a lot of my work. Paddington 1 is about an outsider. It's about a refugee looking for a home, who finds a home, and it's about Mr. Brown, who is trying to protect his family, but through Paddington arriving and through his family's insistence, learns to embrace difference, and that in embracing difference, great things can happen. And the family, which has become disparate, comes back together. In Paddington 2, it was about looking for the good in people. And if you find the good in people, then they will be able to find it in themselves. So that's what drew me to it, rather. As I said earlier on, every film I work on, I try and find some hook, some thematic center on which to build it, because I think it lends a film a little more substance, a little more gravitas, and maybe makes it more relatable and have longer lasting life than the sort of fast food experience that many films have. Not to diminish that, I love a good, superhero films, but the ones that work best for me are the ones that move me in some way. So Paddington made me laugh, it made me cry, and it was about ideas that interest me.
And what was it like working with Quentin Tarantino when producing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
An experience like no other. That was a film where initially Quentin had asked me to do his previous film, The Hateful Eight, but I was not free. And then with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he called. It's a very nice call to get. And he asked me to go out to California to read the script, which I did. And it's a bit difficult to read a script. We had a cup of coffee, and then he led me to a room, and he said, "I'll be back for you in a couple of hours." And I'm reading the script, knowing that I have to read the script and then meet with him immediately afterwards and talk about it. Petrifying. I find speaking to you all a bit nerve-wracking. So speaking to Quentin Tarantino was also nerve-wracking too. So I don't always feel comfortable in those situations. But he was actually very welcoming, and my influence on that film was very different. I was the person who could speak to Quentin directly. Some people don't feel comfortable doing that or intimidated by him. I'm in awe of him as a filmmaker, but felt comfortable having the conversations and taking him on, which I think, the good filmmakers want. They want to be respected, but they want to be pushed a little bit. So I think I did a little bit of that, but it was fun. He feels so grateful for being in the position that he is. And we have this thing on set with him where when he's asking an actor to do one more take, he's done 5 or 6 takes, he's going to do one more version of the shot. He says, "We're going to do one more." Why? And then he turns to the crew and everybody shouts, "Because we love making movies." And he's like a child. That enthusiasm that he has for doing what he does is just, someone who's made 9 films, who's been at the top of the game for a long time, just loves what he does. And the crew for him are like his family. And you feel that every day. His enthusiasm, his incredible creativity, his confidence, because he really is masterful, but also his gratitude and his bringing the whole crew along on the journey with him, and his gratitude to be there, and his gratitude to the people who work, appreciation of all the people who work with him. It's not like that on every film. It's not, but with him, it was a highlight.
Oh, that is absolutely wonderful to hear. Yeah, that's amazing to hear, Quentin Tarantino, your experience with him. So when looking for your next project, what type of scripts draw you in? What motivates you to produce a film?
So being a producer, it's a balance of practicality and emotion. So for me, the most important thing is that I have to find something in the story that I'm a part of telling, that I connect to, that I relate to, that moves me in some way. You know, as I said, on each of the films, there's a reason for me to engage with those particular projects. You know, Quentin's film, one of the things I loved about it was, I mean, it was one, I wanted to work with him. And as I said to him, and frankly to a couple of other, like Alfonso Cuaron, that I'd make the yellow pages if they asked me to. But really, it's because I know that what they would do would always have merit. But on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that was about not living in the past, learning to be grateful for what you've had, and learning to live not with regret about what you didn't have, but with about appreciation for what you have. I thought that was a central theme to Once Upon a Time. But what draws me is the project having something to say. And then once I find, you know, I want it to be ambitious, I want to believe in the director, I want to believe in the story. Once all those categories are ticked, then it's about at what level can this project be made? Is the budget, what it will cost to make it, commensurate with what we will be able to get in the marketplace? Because nowadays, unfortunately, unless you're working with these auteur filmmakers, it's harder and harder to make original stories. Television a little more so, actually. But film, but even that's getting a little tighter. And film, it's Marvel, it's DC. I love those films. But you know, the films that got me into the industry, which were films from the 1970s and before, are very hard to get made. So you've got to look at what. So then, as a producer, one of the things I have to do is determine what budget we can make it at, and then see if there is a market for that project at that level. And you know, I'm in a fortunate position. I'm an incredibly lucky person. You know, as I say, you know, I could never have forecast that Harry Potter would be the success. That's luck. It's just right place, right time. And I mean, none of the films I've made did I ever think would, you know, for me, it's always about wrestling them from disaster in some ways, pushing them to be as good as they could, but really having no sense of that they can be as successful as some of them, like Gravity. Warner Brothers on Gravity sold 25% of the film 4 weeks before the film was distributed, released in cinemas, because they didn't have confidence in it. That's one of the beautiful things about the business is nobody knows. Anybody who tells you they know, ignore it. I know what I like, and I believe that what I like, some other people will like, but it's a judgment call as to whether I'm right, whether enough people will like it. So the decision making is really first and foremost passion, then viability. Is it realistic? And then, do I like the people involved? Do I believe in the filmmaker? And do I think that I will have a good experience? And do I think I have something to offer? Because there are many people who can do what I do I may not be the best person for a slasher film. It's just not, I just don't think that's where I don't think I have something to offer to that, for example. Some things I do, some things I don't. I'm aware of some of my limitations, probably not all, and know where I think I know where I can be of added value or not.
Perfect. Thank you so much, David, for providing insight into the industry and your career so far. I have a couple of questions about your motivation for setting up LSA, and you've touched upon them earlier, but I just wanted to touch base on a few things that you mentioned in terms of the screen industries. So now the screen industries are growing exponentially. This means there's a great demand for content, which then creates lots of exciting opportunities for work. When we want young people from all backgrounds across London to have access to those roles, to have the skills and acknowledge and thrive in the industry. Now, as a school community, we exist to ensure that the workforce behind the camera within film and TV represents the London that we live and work in. So David, what drew you up to setting up LSA?
Well, you've just hit on a primary, on a primary reason, which is the industry right now doesn't reflect the society we live in, socioeconomically in any way, and we wanted to really encourage that. That was one. Two, given who we are, we thought we were in a great position to do so, to provide a great access for people in industry, to industry, and also, when they graduate, and also during their 2 plus years at the school. With our contacts and resources, we've been able to attract incredible people to come and talk and come and teach. And at the school, we have amazing equipment, cameras, sound equipment, editing equipment, etc., etc. Really, it's industry standards. And the school is free. The ability to set up an academy to do what we need to do to create an environment that gives people every opportunity for success was something that was an opportunity we were keen to seize. It really is, of all the projects that I think Tim, Eric, Barbara, me, Michael are working on, I think this is our most exciting, because education is the foundation of the future. It is how, as Malcolm X said, education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. And I think that we have an opportunity, and we've, at the school, to really give people not only the skills for industry, because the skills for industry are actually skills for life. It's about communication. It's about collaboration. It's about listening, not just talking. It's about hearing, not just being heard, but it is about being heard, and creating a supportive environment where people can express themselves in a supportive, exciting environment. I think it is. I wish LSA was around when I was 16 years old, because I would have leapt at the opportunity to go there.
Yeah, exactly.
And then around it, by the way, around that also, we're setting up programs for broader cultural experience. So people can, people go to the cinema, people go to the theatre, people go to sets, people go to museum, people, the concerts. We're setting up programs to make the experience as broad and enriching as possible, that will, one, give them students a head start going into industry, but also prepare them for whatever other disciplines they may choose to go to. As you can hear, I believe in it.
No, David, it's really great to hear your enthusiasm, why you decided to set up LSA. And whenever I talk to any young person, I always say, well, if I was 16 again, I would totally come here, because the wide range of opportunities that's offered for our students, and the facilities. I'm in one of the hair and makeup rooms, and we've got amazing sets within the building, and an opportunity for us young people to strive and tell their story.
They're amazing sets. They're amazing sets, but students also build sets.
Yes.
There are sets already. We have in the center of the school a professional quality soundstage. It really is it's the core of the building. And then around that stage, which has lighting, and it's a lecture hall that has lighting and sound, and incredible. We have all the classrooms and editing facilities and makeup, which, as you can see behind. It really is. The facilities are first rate.
Definitely. So my next question to you, David, would be, what advice would you give a young person interested in working in the film industry?
I think that there is so much more. I think most people think that the film industry is actors and directors, and that I think that's a very narrow view of what the opportunities are. What's so incredible about, in the film industry, there are not just cameramen, but there are a whole support team for the cameraman, assistant cameramen, focus pullers. They're the grips who move the camera. There are the light people who do the lighting, and there are many different categories within that. The makeup, there's all sorts of different people within the makeup. Every single department has, a film crew is made up of anywhere from 30 to 300 people. So each film has such a wide variety of jobs that are required and needs that need to be met. So I would say that the first thing is to think of the film industry as a much broader canvas than you might imagine. Secondly, I think that what it does require is commitment. I don't want to pretend that that the film industry is one where you can just wing it. I mean, I'm winging it to a degree every day, in the sense you're making up, there are new challenges and things that I haven't experienced, and I'm making up solutions. But that's one of the things that's exciting. But what you have to do is work like a demon. You have to work so very hard, so hard, in order to do the job well, and in order to thrive. But I think that's true of any position, of any job. I think the film industry is, every day is different. I think that's you'll be kept interested and entertained and energized by that. And it's a really great community. I've got friends. I've made so many friends along the way. And they're friends that I know will be with me for the rest of my life.
That's lovely. Thank you, David. I've got one more question from me before I pass it on to Lily from the student questions. But my final question to you, David, would be, what advice would you give your 16-year-old self?
Gosh. I think that is a really good question. I think experience all that life has to offer, and all the opportunities. Just try things out. Be curious. Ask questions, ask a lot of questions. And I think the important thing is that I can tell you that I'm 60 this year. I've been working in the film industry for almost 40 years, and I'm learning every day. And I think the thing I would say is enter everything you do with humility, because whatever you do, there are people who can do it better and people who can do more. And so I think that's what I would probably tell myself. Be curious, be humble.
Thank you so much, David, for answering my questions. It was really good advice as well, what would say to your 16-year-old self. I'm now going to pass on to Lily, because I believe there are some student questions. So a few students are going to ask you a few questions. So over to you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we've had so many student questions in, and the great thing is that in your interview, you've already answered so many of them. We've had a question from Sacred Heart Language College, who would like to know, what was your greatest challenge in becoming a film producer?
I think the greatest challenge is and remains having confidence in a singular vision. When because the best films are those where you are pushing the envelope and you're daring, it's that phrase, daring to fail. that you're pushing the envelope and you're teetering on the edge. And I want to work with people like that who don't want to operate safely. They're just trying to push the boundaries of what is possible, get the most out of every day on set, push everybody to give, to do more. I think the greatest challenge is to have the confidence in that against adversity and all the people who are telling you you're crazy, which is continues to be the case every day. And also, there's a wonderful Samuel Beckett line, which is fail, fail again, fail better. And I feel like I fail every day, and I think that having the sometimes it just to keep the resilience to just keep on coming back, when you've been knocked down, is a challenge that I think we all face. I'm sure everybody on this call, and this has a similar experience in some ways. So I think that's probably it.
And we've had a question come in from the Harris Academy that links to kind of failure and setbacks. They would like to know, on average, and we know it's different for everyone, how long does it take before a film producer or writer gets recognised or lands a job and starts to produce scripts?
Gosh, it's really hard to, there's no rule. And I think that's the other thing, just to, it's very important to not have the expectation that you write a screenplay, and then it gets made. I'm working on a script, I optioned a book. Actually, I optioned a script in 1997 that now it looks like it's got a chance of being made with Danny Boyle as the director. So that's 24 years, it'll probably be 25 years by the time we get going, if we get going. Another one, I'm working on The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. So I optioned that book before it was published. It looks like it might get going this year, or sorry, top of next year. So, to answer your question, if one is, there are first-time screenwriters who write a script and it gets made, and there are those that don't have a script made until they're in their 60s, 70s, and there are some who never get a script made. So I think it's very hard to there are no rules about that, and it takes a little bit of luck, a lot of perseverance, and talent. Though there are plenty of films that get made that you wonder if there was any talent at all. Yeah, I've probably been a part of a few of those too, so I shouldn't speak too much.
Thanks, David. Students from Sacred Heart of Mary Girls' School and also Bishop Challoner in Tower Hamlets have asked, what would you change in a movie you produced that you believe would make it better today?
It's funny, so Alfonso Cuaron will not look at a film he's directed once he's finished it. Paul King and I, who directed the first two Paddingtons, we're working right now on a prequel to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, a Willy Wonka origins story, which is actually really beautiful and delightful, and hopefully will be out in cinemas the year after next. As we're meeting, we often are tearing apart Paddington 1 and 2, things we got wrong. I look at the effects on some of the early Harry Potter movies and they make me cringe. But that's the state of the technology at the time. On the fifth Harry Potter, for example, the giant, I think, is not a very good effect. And the reason why that is the case is because it was there were various reasons, but we began with that sequence, and it was David Yates, the director's first experience with visual effects. And we had to begin with it because of schedule, but it was probably an error to do so because we didn't have the opportunity to prepare it as much as we could. I can go through every, unfortunately or fortunately, I can go through every single film I've made and tear it apart, because every single film I've made could have been better. One of the things I've learned with time is to appreciate what's good about the films I've made, as opposed to focusing on what's not good and what could be better. Of course, that ambition for something being better is what I think one of the things that makes me, has given me, some success, is because I'm relentless, and I work with people who are relentless in the pursuit of making something better and be as good as it can be. But as I said before, there's no such thing as perfection, and I fail every day. We fail every day, but I'm really proud of the films I've made and grateful for the experience I've had on them. But I know that each one, there are things that could have been better. Even Paddington, 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. There's so much Paddington 2 that could have been better. I can't even begin to tell you. Fortunately, actually, a lot of those mistakes and things go unnoticed, but they're not unnoticed by me or the filmmakers.
You gave some great advice to our aspiring film producers. The students of City and Islington College would like to know if you have any advice for students who aren't too sure whether they want to work in the industry.
Yeah, I think that, what I'd say about the London Screen Academy specifically is, I think that the skills of the industry are that are nurtured and taught at the London Screen Academy, or by working on a film or television show, will help you in whatever you do. I really do. I think communication is essential, and we are in a communications business. Communication is part of it's such an important tool. And we encourage and teach that in all its forms, and collaboration, as I said, and listening and being heard, and learning to find your voice, which is something that we really encourage, and celebrating your voice, because each person's voice should be heard, deserves to be heard. So I would say that anybody who doesn't necessarily know that the film industry is for them, that shouldn't stop you from exploring it. It might be, and even if it's not, what you will learn on the journey will serve you well elsewhere.
I'm aware that we need to hand over to Rochelle just before we go. So can we ask one last question from the Royal Liberty School, who would like to know what are some of the main skills that you think you would need to be a filmmaker?
Curiosity, humility, resilience, creativity, compassion. And, there are so many, but I think all of those, I think those are really, and hard, and an ability to work really, really hard, to go to the end of the world to believe in something and be able to be willing to go to the very end to make it happen.
Thank you so much, Rochelle. We're going to go back to you now to talk about the London Screen Academy's admissions process.
Perfect, thank you. So admissions for the London Screen Academy are still open. The entry requirements for LSA is that you have 5 GCSEs graded 4 to 9. If you fail your maths or English GCSE, not to worry, you can retake it at LSA as it's a national requirement. So in order to apply to LSA, all you need to do is head on down to our website, which is lsa.ac.uk. You'll then need to click the purple button in the top right corner of the screen where it says apply. You'll be then directed to an online application form where you need to answer a series of questions about yourself and tell us about a film, TV or story that you've enjoyed and why you'd like to study at LSA. Now, if your application form is successful, you'll then be invited for a telephone interview. And that's where you'll be interviewed by any member of our staff at LSA. And it's a great opportunity for you to expand on your application and tell us why you'd like to study at LSA. You then need to wait a couple of weeks to find out if you have a conditional offer. So that's it in terms of admissions process. You can still apply today, and all you need to do is head on down to lsa.ac.uk/apply. So that's it. That's it from me. Just to say thank you so much for hosting us. I don't know if David, if you have any few words that you wanted to share before we part.
Not really, except I think that I could not recommend LSA more. You will. It is a great place, a great building with inspiring teachers, educators, and technicians and artists working, and a student body that all of whom have an enthusiasm that is matched, I believe, by the student body. It's a joy walking those halls and seeing the enthusiasm with which the projects and tasks are embraced. And I think that whether you want to be in the film and television industries or not, it is a place that will help you gain the skills that will serve you in whatever you choose to do. I hope to see you wandering the halls one day. And thank you for your time.